Hi, everyone. Welcome to the podcast today. I'm here today with my dear friend, Kathy Sitt. She is a medicine woman and healer, and we met at the American Academy of Hypnotherapy in New Mexico. She is also using hypnotherapy as a modality for so many other things that she does. Kathy is an explorer of life, a seeker of truth, and is dedicated to guiding people to uncover their human potential and live with more fulfillment. Her work is to help you cultivate a harmonious and embodied integration of practical living in a spiritual practice. And she likes to be called Kat. Hi, Kat. Welcome.
Hello, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. As I mentioned in the opening, we went to hypnotherapy school together, which is where we met. And I would love for you to just speak briefly a little bit about what it is that you do. And although we both studied hypnotherapy, I'd love for you to just talk about how you're using that modality in a different way and what other spiritual gifts you're combining it with.
Thank you. Yes, hypnotherapy was almost just the beginning of it all. And it was a beautiful way to start getting to know the subconscious mind, the superconscious mind. And that really just expanded me into knowing that there's so much more than the surface and so much more than just our conscious. So I use hypnotherapy and the ability to kind of tap into the subconscious and all those other layers in my work as a healer. I do offer healing sessions, and more it's like taking people on a journey. So on a journey within themselves and on a longer journey of unraveling whatever issue or challenges it is that they have. And in a way, I guess I work very spiritually, very connected to source, to creation, to spirit, if you want to call it that, like whatever word that you associate with that. And in that very intuitively guided way, bringing through the insights and bringing through whatever information is there. So hypnotherapy, I find, is just an amazing tool to be able to allow clients to resonate with, because it allows them to have the experience. Like, that's a really powerful thing. As I've been finding, when I go on journeys for clients and give them insights, sometimes you're a little bit skeptical. You're like, really? Like, where does that information come from? Or how do you know that? So I think hypnotherapy actually works really well with people who are very left-brained and logic-minded, because it allows them to have the experience. They get to see. So hypnotherapy is very powerful for a number of reasons, not only for the mind, but the ability to allow the patients to journey themselves. So it's a very inherent part of my work and comes out very naturally. Like, I don't even think, oh, it's hypnotherapy I'm doing. It's just very much weaved into my practice and weaved into the session, and everything is flowing and natural, and it goes exactly where the client needs it to go.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And tell me about the crystal grid work. I know that we had done a session together and you had created sort of by calling a crystal grid, or I'm not really sure. I'd love for you to explain how you got to that. And then also you're welcome to tell them like sort of like what you saw in my grid with the yin and the yang. But I'd love for you to just put that whole thing together, because that was really beautiful.
Thank you. Yes, and thank you for trusting me and having a session. I think it's beautiful to share each other's work as well. I think that being introduced to new things, being curious is always the way to go, which is how I even got into hypnotherapy and how I got into this practice as well. So crystals, I'm actually holding one in my hand now. This is selenite. So crystals and energies, crystals have energy. And also when we open kind of a healing space, it becomes a container, an energetic container where it's like, this is the therapy room, let's call it. But in addition to the physical space, you also have energetic space. So is it the right lighting? Do you have the right, props, pillows? Are you comfortable? And then in addition to that, it's like energetically, you want the air to be clear. How would you feel if you walked into your doctor's office and he's got dirty things all over the place and it's a mess, like it would make you feel a certain way. So it's no different when you're doing a healing session. You want tools that are in the right place. You want it energetically to feel good as well. And so energies, we call in sometimes the directions and supporting energies to be around. And crystals also emanate a lot of energy. So think of it like resonance. Maybe you know more about tuning forks. Like if you bang one, it kind of vibrates at a certain frequency. And only when another one is of the same, then they, kind of vibrate together. So crystals, sometimes you might go to a crystal store and you're like, oh, this one's good for clearing energy, or that one's good for your heart. Like, why? Well, so if you can accept that crystals have a certain vibration, and let's say our heart area, because we are all just energies and frequencies. So if our heart area has a certain frequency, then having that crystal near will also kind of vibrate with it. It has the same resonance. So it's like kind of supporting the work that will happen or related to that area. So when we do crystal gridding, which just means you're making a grid or a pattern, I intuitively get guidance on what crystals might support the session and support the healing that is about to take place. So actually the energy container of our healing session is already opened before I begin. So I will already tune in and feel like, it's going to be heart opening. Or it might be like, we need to like really ground the energy. So the stones will have different kind of resonance. And I don't always know what's going to come up, but it often is exactly what they need. So I think in your case, it was not a completely symmetrical grid. There was a lot more on the left side. There was even a beautiful wing from one of the red-breasted cockatoos that I have harvested their wing as a medicine tool, and a lot of feminine energy. And that was really coming in, if I remember well. So it was not equal. There's a lot of Lemurian crystals, Lemuria, full of light and love. It's a very beautiful feminine energy. And so that was the grid that came in for you. And even just now, as we're speaking, I always have crystals, but I've got selenite, which just is a very light kind of crystal. It kind of opens and calls in a lot of light. I've got the Super 7 that's right underneath the computer. It's actually a crystal formed out of 7 different kind of crystals.
I've never even heard of that before.
Yeah, it's called Super 7.
So cool.
It's very beautiful. And they all have different energies. And I'm not even a crystal person. Like I've only just begun to remember the crystalline energies. And I think, again, if we can accept that we're more than just this 3D body, it's like we have different layers, and that crystalline, energy is coming in stronger and we're resonating more with it. Like I remember when I was visiting Crystal Castle, which is a beautiful, beautiful place up in Byron where I was, there's a lot of huge crystal formations. Like I'm talking about like 30-ton crystal formations. And my head was just like, it was like high. It was like as if I was out there for a while. And it's because if our energy field resonates with something, like you really feel it. Think of it like, if you walk into maybe an electronics store or even your home and the TV is on, like you can kind of know like that frequency and that sound. It's like this.
Yeah.
All things have a frequency, and crystals have a certain frequency. So they're just to support the session and to help with bringing through the energies that are going to come through for whatever session is about to happen. I sleep with them. I have them on my altar and just having them, like they can also draw in what you want. Like some of them are for manifestation. Some of them are grounding. Some of them are protection. I wear them around. So I'm actually wearing Moldavite, which is like a meteorite, and double terminated Tibetan quartz. So, and you can program them. Like this is a protector energy. It's more just to have like a little bit of a field. So you can go down rabbit holes with crystals, and they're just beautiful. They're just beautiful as well, part of Mother Earth and all the beauty that she has to offer.
Yes, I agree. They're so beautiful. Well, it's almost kind of diagnostic in a way too, because it sounds like intuitively you're kind of pulling that energy down before your session even starts. And then looking at the grid that you made for me, it was a little unbalanced, which we had kind of talked about. Maybe my yin and my yang were a little unbalanced, even though I'm full of feminine energy, that I was sort of more masculine in maybe one area of my life, maybe like work or something like that. And so really kind of balancing that, like kind of making myself a priority and nurturing myself. So it almost seems like diagnostic before you even start the session, and then you're able to use them to really ground the session.
Yeah, definitely. I think information already starts to come through. So I explain it like, if energy is beyond time and space, and we did our session over Zoom, we didn't do it in person, right? And we know energy is still shifting. So what I think of it is like, imagine that you had a magnifying glass. And so what happens is, like, I kind of ask and I say, show me, Shannon, what's going on? And it's almost like that energetic magnifying glass is over you. And you're like, I'm just looking at that. Oh, okay, that energy is telling me this, this, and that. And so when I shift that, and let's say I'm doing a spiritual reading, and you say, tell me about, I don't know, your mom, for example. I might not know your mom. I might not even know her name. But it's like, I'm just setting that intention. And here we are again with kind of mind techniques. Intention is super strong, isn't it? Intention is powerful. Where our attention and intention goes, the energy flows. So it's the same. So it's like I'm shifting that magnifying glass to, okay, let's have a look. Who's Shannon's mom? Show me the energy of that. So that's using that ability, which we all inherently have, but we just need to practice and, tap into that in order to do good work, in order to do the work needed to support any session, whatever is about to happen in that. So that's kind of how I see spiritual readings also. That's how I see it. It's like I'm just putting my attention on that, and then it shows me what I need to see. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense to me. I absolutely love it. So I want to go backwards a little bit, because I'd really love to kind of talk a little bit about how you grew up, where you were born, and then how kind of stifling your voice or your expression was a part of your life as you were growing up. And the effect that it had on you is really that kind of trying to fit into a box for a long time. So if you could please, have a brief explanation about that, I would love to hear how all of that really got started.
Absolutely. It's fundamental in the journey and how I got to where I am. And being Eastern, so being of Chinese heritage, but born in the West. So my parents are first generation. And I really grew up in a confused way. It's like very strict, very Chinesey, high expectations, high demands, but not in a bad way. I think they always have good intention, right? It's just super competitive, back home. And it was a time of need when they left. And so it was like, going to brighter lands in Canada in order to have brighter future for their children. But as a child, and this is like all in hindsight, right? Because foresight is where it's challenging. Hindsight's 2020. And in looking back, it's like childhood was tough. Childhood was really tough. I never got to go on sleepovers. I never got to like hang out with friends. I never got to go to summer camp. Like everything was quite demanding. And, I had summer school. I had summer camp that was more about, more school. And really feeling a lack of expression, not being able to have desires, not being able to speak even of my emotions. It was almost like having a mask all the time, having a mask of being polite, having a mask of being a good girl, being a smart girl, and all the expectations. So across every culture and every family, I'm sure that there are expectations, whether they're said or unsaid. But in hindsight, I guess I always felt like it really did stifle a lot that I needed to fit into some expectation of be a doctor or a scientist, because that's what Chinese people do. And so even when I went to study something good, I went to business school. And even then, I still never felt like it was good enough until years and years later. And so I think part of that environment, and let's call it just, I don't want to say stifling environment, but the environment in which I grew up led me to completely want to go away. And so in 2010, more than 10 years ago, it's, I guess, 11 years now, I decided to pick up and leave. And I went and picked the most random place. So I went from Canada, having never left before, and lived in the Middle East for the last 10 years. And that was kind of like the beginning of a little bit of my journey, my 10-year cycle of really exploring who am I, what am I doing? And that was in every area, including my career, which completely has changed, clearly, because I'm not in corporate anymore.
I'd love for you to just kind of, for one ironic second, tell everybody what you were doing in your corporate life.
Absolutely. So I'm a chartered accountant, a CPA, CA. I still am, actually. And my background is in finance and accounting. So I worked in corporate strategy and a number of roles in finance, strategy, transformation for big companies. So I worked for airlines. I worked for airlines for the last 7 years, and a number of finance and strategy roles.
I love it that you are doing transformational work in a corporate setting and feeling unfulfilled. And it's just ironic that that whole part of your journey is part of your own transformational journey.
Absolutely.
Sorry to interrupt you. You can continue.
I think it's a perfect segue, because I always used to joke. So funny that you should point that out. My last role, the title was literally head of transformation, because the whole department was actually the transformation office. So the company was actually shifting gears and rebranding and whatever. And I was part of the huge transformation office needed to do that. And so I was the head of department, head of transformation. And there was definitely a lack of fulfillment on a number of levels. And so I always joke that by the end of it, it was like, okay, you handle your transformation, because I actually need to work on my transformation. And that's what I help people with now. It's an honor to help people to have the courage to step into, what is it you're feeling? It's like that wanting more. Many people have that, not quite fulfilled, wanting more, not quite knowing what it is. And not everyone's going to have that luxury to say, okay, let me take sabbatical from work and go figure it out, right? Like I've done that. I had the opportunity to do that. But I like to help people to have that journey with me, to go into that exploration, have clarity. Where are you now? What's the issue? Are you unfulfilled? Are you unhappy? What's the energetic blockage? What's the issue? From both the logic side and the illogical, intuitive feeling side. Because it's a feeling. It's a feeling like it's not enough. Because I had everything. I had a success on every level. I had a great job. I had great pay. I had a great apartment. I had a great life. I traveled all the time. I worked for an airline. Like I had everything. But it's like, it's a feeling that's not quite right. So it's helping people to have clarity on what is that feeling? What is it that they're looking for, really? And allowing them to then be able to see, not just with their 3D eyes, but with their inner eyes. And then helping them to have the tangible 3D world steps in order to get there. And having the courage to do it, because that's what we're doing. It's like we're just on a path of unfolding and expression of who we are. And so that story of, being stifled and not expressing, it's like now I'm only beginning to come into my expression in my words, expression in my voice, expression in my singing, but expression in what I do. Like that's all an expression, isn't it? So I think it ties really nicely, like that transformation, title may be what I needed in order to give me the kick to say, well, are you doing that transformation? Are you living up to your potential? So I think I like to see it as, whether you say healer, medicine woman, it's medicine for the soul. It's healing so that we can just come into an expression of who we are, and if that is a corporate person, amazing, because there are amazing people who love and who are good at what they do. But if your expression is more to be a healer, then let's get you there. And let's, get through all the blockages, which it isn't just, a healing session or two, but it's a journey, like from that path and that beginning to now. I mean, it's been years. And I have not felt so fulfilled, content, and living in alignment. Like that's how you know that you're on the path, is when everything is like, life is good, like you're living in alignment with what you're here to do. And that's when your expression is also in alignment and authentic. So that's my little view of transformation.
I absolutely love that. It's so beautiful and so true. So what happened after you left that? So you were 10 years at this corporate job. Your last piece of the job was as head of transformation. And then what happened on your journey after you left there?
I had been itching to leave for a while and still resisting because I had other patterns and things that were kind of tying me down. And I don't like to say that of relationships, but I think it was kind of a relationship that still had kept me there. And so when that finally dissolved because it just no longer was serving, I followed the intuition on what I was supposed to be doing. And I went to Thailand. I was there for a course, Qigong. I also teach a bit of Qigong, which is another body, mind, spirit kind of integration movement practice. And then I came to Australia. I came to Australia as I was called to. I felt like the land was really calling me. I came here to do a course as well. So more learning of this shamanic path, this ability to connect with spirit and the deepening of that connection. And that's just completely changed my life. That's when I knew, it was like, there is no way I could ever do 9 to 5 again. Not just for the hours, but it's like, having this kind of life and living as I lived in a small coastal town for the last year, just being with nature again. Like I lived in not only a concrete jungle, but I lived in a desert. There was no life. Okay. Like in like mother earth, like nature kind of life. And I escaped every weekend. I escaped every 2 weeks to go travel because like as an environment, it just actually wasn't real. Like it wasn't even a real ecosystem, if you want to call it that. And so once I came to Australia and I was like, surrounded by
because you were living in Dubai, right?
Yeah, Abu Dhabi, but yes.
Yeah,
Dubai.
Abu Dhabi. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I just want to let everybody know where you were living in the Middle East. Because that makes a lot more sense.
Beautiful place. Yeah. An amazing journey for the last, 10 years. And I can't take away from that. Like, and I needed to be there to then experience the complete opposite. I mean, really, like 5 minutes to the beach every day was like waking up, seeing the ocean, sunrise, sunsets, being with nature, dancing, in the backyard, being barefoot, like just real stuff. And when you live in a city, sometimes you forget the natural beauty and the natural healing medicine that kind of reminds you, hey, you're just a speck in the universe. Like, you were working so hard, like go, go, go. But it's like, for what? So that you can take a week vacation to get away from it all. But it's like when you're there all the time, it's like then you can be in this state of creativity. Then you can be in a healing state where you contemplate more. And so that's what really led me to actually choosing to stay in Australia. I mean, given the world situation now as well, and I think the land's very healing and the work here is very healing. And again, like as everything is kind of lining up, I have a beautiful community of like-minded individuals, other healers. I also met the man of my life here, who is also a healer, and we're here and doing some big collaborative work together, no doubt.
What kind of work does he do?
He's into Chinese medicine.
Beautiful. So wow.
That way, acupuncture, moxibustion. And the origins of that is ancient. Like all of these healing traditions, actually, it's ancient wisdom in the modern day. Like we can, but normally we don't go like in the jungle, for 2 months and, that's our healing thing, or go find the shamans there. Like, yes, you can. but we need medicine that's applicable and approachable and available to the everyday person. So it's kind of why I love the term medicine woman. And, we are all medicine. We are the medicine, what our offering is, what your offering is. So it's like kind of like we are the modern medicine people of this day. You need to be connected to these ancient things. Yeah. Let's not just dispense a pill and be over with it. Mind you, if you've got issues and they need that, do that. But it's the integration, of the East and the West, Eastern philosophies, sacred philosophies, ancient philosophies and ways of healing. Like these are old wisdoms. Connecting.
Well, we're all ancient wisdom in the modern world, if you think about it. I mean,
we just need to remember that.
We're a sum of all of our souls and all of our lives and all of our parts. So it's like we're all everything and nothing at the same time, but we're all that ancient wisdom living in the modern world. So it's so beautiful to have, your way of helping people decode that and get in touch with that. And it sounds like that's what you've been doing for along this journey, is really getting in alignment and getting in the rhythm of your soul. And now that you've gotten there and, not to say, oh, you've arrived and you're done, but now that you're like on the path, you're helping other people get on that path, because you know how it feels to be out of alignment and to have everything and still not be happy and still kind of searching. So you're the perfect guide for anybody who's looking for that. That's wonderful.
Thank you for seeing me. But I think all healers are. It's like we're healing and showing other people the way where we just were. So
we're usually just one or two steps ahead.
I know, right?
Lay in the bricks as you go along.
I was just there.
Oh, was I not supposed to just say that?
You should acknowledge it. Like we're not on any pedestal.
Yeah,
we're all on a journey, and we're just literally holding each other's hand. You're going to help me with that. I'm going to help you with this. And we're just all lifting each other. And like I'm on a journey. We're still on a journey. That journey is not going to end. Not in this life.
Right.
Not in the next either.
And so that is what catalyzed your healing path, was that kind of after working 10 years at the corporate, and then you started looking for healers to help heal your brother. And that's kind of what led you to your path. Is that also a piece of your journey?
Yes. Thanks for reminding me. Absolutely. I think our karmic family, our actual parents, our siblings, like they're sometimes our biggest teachers. If you can accept the idea that we do have lives or consciousness beyond this life, we make contracts. We make contracts with these souls. And I definitely have contracts, with my parents, with my brother. And I had actually one of the first past lives that I visited, and you would know this because we went to school together. I think I went to ask, what's the life that has the biggest influence on my current life at that moment? And it was because I had journeyed to the life that my brother in this life and I were together. And I had basically made a vow. I had made a vow that I was going to help him, And that kind of threw over into this life where it's that same energy of like, I'm here to help, and that in itself, I think is fine. But it's when that energy is overtaking your life and in a negative way, when you feel bound by that, extra energy of like feeling that responsibility. So I did. I've been, wanting to find things to help him on his journey. And so I started exploring different things for the purpose of trying them out and then recommending them to him. So I had tried out things like Reiki, and I'm a Reiki master. I went to go and learn that too. I had tried out, obviously I was on my yoga path. So I'm a yoga teacher as well. I took him to Qigong, and that's how I got into my Qigong path. Like literally everything I think that I tried. Yes, I told him about it, but then it ended up that I was doing it. Like I felt, oh, well, actually I might need to learn that. And then
I love that.
I tried hypnotherapy and definitely felt the resonance that I needed to do it. And so when we were there in school, I was there for the whole time, so a couple of months, he actually came to stay with me as well. So he was definitely part of my journey, and he had therapy for a while. And Yeah, he definitely was part of the process, the catalyst as well in me looking for things and trying out different modalities, but also a very important lesson to acknowledge that our journey is the only one that we can be accountable and responsible for. And that we have to acknowledge and respect other people's paths and their choices. It's their choices. As much as I'm his sister and at every level of my being, I want to help him. It's for him. Like, he has to stand up and want it. And so actually we're in a very similar place even right now. And yeah, I still feel a lot of sadness sometimes, but I wish that he would raise his hand and want to do things, not with me. Like, I don't need to be his healer, but I can see that our paths have really diverged in the sense we did some work together and then he gave up a bit. And I just continued to fall on because I heard that calling and I just went for it. I didn't know what I was doing. And that most days, even now, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just going with it. You can't just sit there and say, oh, woe is me. And so I respect that you feel and you are a victim, and we're all victims. Yeah. It's just different polarities. You're a victim, you're a savior, but to acknowledge that and then do something about it. And so I learned the lesson of really respecting other people's paths. If you come as a client, you don't want to work on stuff, great. That's your
choice.
I come shoving therapy or stuff down your throat. And I meet people, I can't just go into, let me do a reading for them all. Let me send them this. Like, you can, but it's, people have to ask, people have to want it, and people should exchange their energy for it as well. That's the whole other
it's a collaboration. It's definitely a collaboration, and you really can't help people who, don't want to be helped or don't want to help themselves, because you're not doing something to somebody. You're guiding them to that place inside of themselves where they have the ability to have choices, take action, see things for themselves, and then make changes based on the knowledge that you've discovered together.
Yeah, definitely.
In a way. But, there's a real beauty in what you were just saying about the past life, how you discovered this past life where you had a vow that you would help him. And there's a real beauty in that by helping him, he was also helping you get on your path. So there's just something, it just shows you sort of the irony and the serendipity of how these lifetimes and this quantum space, how it really all gets in the mix, and how each piece really is connected, and how we all really are connected, through space and time. I mean, it's a very beautiful exchange in that way.
Yeah, definitely. That's how I see contracts as well. Maybe his contract was to teach me this lesson. Maybe mine to him was to fulfill something else. So yeah, there's never any coincidences. Everything is synchronistic and has its meaning and its reason. Just that we're not always aware of what that reason is, or maybe too late. So
it's that hindsight, it's looking back, everything really was connected, but you only see that in reverse, which is why the choices and all the things that you're talking about with the inner journey and healing and transformation, it means so much to how we live our lives.
Definitely. And just having that awareness, like to know maybe not everything is what it appears on the surface. Are you willing to go just a level deeper? Yeah.
Things are rarely what they appear on the surface, which is why it's so interesting, because, there's always that energetic current running in the background. There's two conversations. There's the conversation we're having physically right now between you and I. And then just behind that, as you're saying, there's this energetic conversation, this nonverbal conversation that's happening on so many different levels, all at the same time, in all different lanes of time, all right now in this moment. And so it's a lot for us as sensitive people or empaths to kind of decode all those layers that are happening at all times.
Yeah, I think so. And I think you nailed it on the head. It's about, like, what is consciousness? It's awareness. Can we have the awareness that we're more than this 3D body talking? You know, our spirits are talking, our soul level is interacting. And the more awareness that we can have, the deeper that we can go with things and really look at it. It's just awareness. It's like looking at something in the room. If I was staring at you from this angle, I see your face, your features, it's clear. If I'm looking at Shannon, but I'm behind you, I'm not going to see that. I'm going to see a different perspective. I'm going to see your hair. I'm going to see, I don't know, how the back of your shirt looks. And so I think everything is like, it is the truth. The truth is, if I look at you from the front, this is what I see. This is what I perceive. And the truth is, if I stand behind you, I'm going to see something else. And so I think the same truth, which is Shannon right now in this example, can be seen in so many different angles and perspectives. And they're all truths. And so even in our expression in life, our interactions, our responses to situations, to people, to things are all going to be perceived very differently. And that's how it comes out sometimes in healings as well. Like I work with a lot of people who have trauma. What's trauma? Trauma isn't just like getting in a car accident. That's traumatic on probably many levels. Trauma can be at an energetic level. And imagine when you are a child, trauma comes really easily. And from the perspective of the child, it's traumatic. And what happens is like so much of that energy and the beliefs that you accepted at those times are manifesting and showing up in your adult life. But because we're like on a program and it's already so entrenched in our subconscious, as you would know, it's like you don't even know it's there. And so it manifests in a way that's like blocking you. It keeps replaying and replaying until you can pick it out at the root to say, but that's not true. That perception, that perspective that you accepted as truth some time ago is not truth. And so we need to reshift that. We need to change that perspective. We need to move them from sitting behind you to sitting in front of you to say like, look, this is actually also how we can look at it. So shifting perspective regarding a situation that could have been traumatic can be easily described as that. We're just shifting energy. No need to be afraid. I can't see a face. I'm afraid. Okay, we'll come and look at it from this side. So that's like kind of a way that I look at it as well. And why things from the past still are showing up now.
Yeah, it's interesting because, when we're kids, especially pre-verbal, so when we're nonverbal, we're taking in everything as energy. We are, energy. We're on that subconscious brain wavelength, but we're also taking in everything as energy. So we're taking in everything as an energy dynamic and a feeling, and we're placing it in our bodies. And that really turns into the blueprint for all of these things that you're talking about. And, that's why they're coming out. And, it's just so interesting how layered all of that gets. And so, yeah, the energy is so, it's everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we are multifaceted, multi-layered, multi-dimensional beings. So not just in our living dream, but, when we sleep, when we drift off, it's like, those places can also, that self in us in those places can also journey. So working with
the astral traveling. Apparently I do a lot of that.
Yeah. And isn't it interesting? Like, we don't always even know. It's like, I wake up sometimes, and you can, share your experience, but sometimes like I wake up, I'm like, I'm exhausted. Like, not because I didn't sleep enough, but it's like, I feel like I've been working.
Yeah, you probably have been. I'm sure you're out in the cosmos doing your work. I'm sure this is something you've been doing for many lifetimes.
Yeah, no doubt. I definitely do have, lots of visions and lots of things. Yesterday I was doing a little meditation on the bed. I'm like overcome by these urges sometimes to just lie down. Yeah. And it's like whatever insights want to come, or maybe my body needs a rest. So yesterday I was having my afternoon lie down, and like within minutes I had dropped myself into this deep state. And then my partner interrupted because he came into the room, and I had to tell him, don't talk. Because I was like deep in the journey, and I was like in the underworld crossing the river Styx. Like I knew it was, I don't know, like I don't even know what mythology that is. I think that's Greek mythology, is it? I'm not even sure, but it's like the underworld river. And I was about to like cross to the other side to do it. I don't know what I was doing. A soul retrieval.
Wow,
like I was thinking,
yeah.
And then I was
doing
like,
something.
Oh, he interrupted me. Like I was so deep in it. And then, anyways, I couldn't retrieve it. But yeah, no doubt I'll probably visit again when the time is right. Like at that time, I had no intention to even journey. It just automatically dropped. And I guess I want to highlight that it's so important for us to be able to have that rest, for us to physically have that rest, so our body can actually tune down from this fight or flight, from our go, go, go. But that was one of the messages for you as well. It's like you need to be able to have that time so that you can actually have the comfort, the space, the safety to journey and to get whatever wants to come in. So imagine that spirit, the universe is trying to communicate with you, and you're just like, everything's flaring up and busy in your life, that no message is going to come in. It's just going to plop in and like bounce right back out because, it's hectic. So part of practice, our self-hypnosis, part of even meditation, relaxation, is just to be able to get our bodies into this receptive state so that we can actually be in those altered states of consciousness to receive information, to go retrieve information, to do the healing work in those realms, in those energetic places. Because it's not, your conscious mind is not going to do it. I'm going to go, to the underworld and go, like it doesn't happen like that. You need to energetically work. You need to go and retrieve it, amend it, heal it, shift it at those other levels. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like shifting from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic nervous system. It's like that's where that kind of, wind down and that healing is going to begin to take place, is when you're in the parasympathetic, because the sympathetic is just fight or flight. So everything's going to the big organs and you're running from a tiger. And, there are people that spend most of their lives in there. People can spend a week and a week, a month, 10 years. I mean,
your whole life.
Without their whole life, without even knowing it. It's just that, over and over chasing, running from a tiger or whatever it is. So yeah, I definitely know that. I love that you're saying that, because it's so true. I mean, that's the place, that's sort of what we're trying to do, is to get to that place where we can, release and heal and relax and get into that healing space.
Yeah. And that analogy you used about running from the tiger, it's one that we use in one of my lineages that I studied with. So we journey around the medicine wheel, which is like the 4 directions, the east, the west, and each of them have a certain association with elements and also association with its power animal, which is like call it like a symbol, a representation of what that direction stands for. And the jaguar. So in the South American school that I'd study with, the jaguar, it talks about how we need to coax the big cat from the top of the tree and bring it down, right? When the cat's afraid and it's like, out there, nothing's going to happen. You're not going to be petting it. You're not going to be holding it, right? So if you think of our challenges, like we need to coax that big cat from the tree down, then you can address it. So it's the same thing. You need to bring that fight or flight down to that parasympathetic nervous level, that relaxed, again, that calmness. And that's, again, physical body needs to be comfortable, right? So imagine we're trying to do a session and you've got I don't know, loud construction outside, which is still workable, but let's say you're cold. Like if you're cold in your thing and you're uncomfortable, the lights are in your eyes, like you're not going to be able to relax. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So again, that's like set up, and let's make everything conducive. Let's make it warm, have soft lighting, have beautiful music, have a nice scent in the air. And so it's like you're preparing all the levels so that you can actually go there.
Yeah, and very sensual.
Practice a little, then yes, you can do it in the middle of the concrete jungle on the bus, and like drop into that meditative state anywhere. Mm-hmm. But until we practice, because it's a skill, right? If we don't practice it, then you lose it. But when you practice, then you can just, again, a hypnotherapy technique, anchor it. Anytime I do X, I will be able to drop in quickly and easily into meditative state. So now it doesn't take me very long at all. I can be in and out of a deeply relaxed state within like 7 minutes, to have gone deep, relaxed, cycled through whatever brain waves, and like wake up feeling refreshed in as little as 7 to whatever. Usually it's about like maybe 10 minutes or something. And it's deeply relaxing to be able to do that. And everyone needs to. Like if you need to rest, pop your head down. It's like your body's telling you need to rest. So we just need to do it.
Yeah, that's a wonderful, wonderful practice. I'd love to talk about your natural gifts. We talked about them before, and we've talked a lot about this stuff during the podcast. So it really all connects to what you're doing now, but what you've done throughout your entire life, which is communication is one of your natural gifts, and really that energy and vibration resonance. And I love that you said that was one of your natural gifts, because you've been talking about that resonance and vibration and energy throughout our entire podcast. You are a wonderful communicator, and you also really have the ability to see people. And there was definitely a moment during the podcast where I think we both really looked at each other and we really saw each other. And so I really sort of had that moment as well. And I felt you having that moment, which was so beautiful. And also claircognizance, which can you just remind what claircognizance is? I think I'm pronouncing it wrong. But before you do, I just want to really, say that, we had talked about this before. Your biggest fear was the fear of being seen. And ironically, all these things that are so natural to you that you've been doing throughout your entire life and that you're now using to help other people come into alignment with who they truly are all the opposite of the fear of being seen. And so it's almost like all of these gifts that you have are now not only healing you, but helping you to work with others and put them on a healing path. So I just think that's so beautiful. And again, everything is so connected in the most interesting way.
It is. I'm trying to remember this quote. It's something like, the wound is where the light enters.
Mm-hmm.
And it is.
I think that's Leonard Cohen.
Is it? And it is. So. It's like, that fear and all the wounds of not being seen, not being heard. Mm-hmm. And yet, it is like I see people. I see not just, again, with my outer eyes, but it's like I can see you right through to your soul. It's like I can know you. I can feel the energy of who you are and how you are. And not just from like personality, personality that can change from lifetime to lifetime, but it's like the essence of who you are, and then that how that energy, expresses. Claircognizance, so subtle. So probably a lot of people might have heard of clairvoyance or clairvoyance. So that's like voyance is to be able to see. And I think the word clair just, amplifies it. It's to a more subtle or deeper degree. Or you can be clairaudient and hear, maybe either hearing sounds or hearing spirit communicate in different ways. You can be kinesthetic and be able to feel things in your body. So they're all just different senses which may be amplified. And all of us have these inherent gifts. All of us do. And it's even in hypnotherapy, it's about knowing which sense is strongest for your client so that you use that sense too. So imagine that you're, visual, and I keep saying, now hear the sounds of the ocean. Like, you're not hearing anything, you see. So it's important that we actually guide our clients to be able to know what their gifts are, what their natural senses are. And actually we have them all, but it's a matter of developing them as well. And so I'm not very visual. Like claircognizance means like I have a knowing. So that's my owl medicine. It's my wisdom. It's like, I just know. I know that it's about this whatever imbalance of.
That's how I am too.
Yeah, it's like
I just know.
Knowing, and I might get images in my mind. I don't necessarily see them, but like I get the symbolism. So I might get an image of, like, let's say I got an image. I don't know. The other day I was explaining somebody's brand, and I gave her an analogy. It's like I talk a lot in symbolism and in analogies because that's the visions that come. But the knowing is what describes it. It's how I describe it. And so I guess a natural thing I do or gift is the knowing, but also that ability to translate that into words, right? Because this is still, unfortunately, the languaging that we're still using until we get back to using telepathy. But, we need to have words. People still need to understand and receive your messages. So it's about knowing and also articulating, communicating. And sound has been a huge part of my medicine, like, again, into expression, right? Like once I unlocked that, it's like now sound is in every one of my sessions. So sound, your voice has vibration. When you are, giving meditation, like how would it feel if I was giving a meditation? I'm talking like a mile a minute, like you're not going to be relaxed like that, but so sound definitely. And also like singing, like music, our auditory system and memory has so much. So when you're making a sound that is not a word, it has a vibration, it has a frequency. So using sound as expression has also been coming through a lot for me. And this claircognizance, I mean, I don't know how you felt about it, but when I was acknowledging it, getting comfortable with it, I was like, oh, why did they have to give me this one? Like, it's so subtle. Like I kept doubting it in the beginning, so I had to work a lot more with my trust, really trusting that if you're in your highest integrity and in your work and in your session, that you have to trust, like if that message comes, like you have to just go with it. Otherwise you're actually not doing anyone justice. But in the beginning, there was a lot of doubt because it's not as evident as seeing it. It's not as evident as a voice telling it to you. It's not as evident as feeling it in your body. But now, as I embrace it more and more, and I just, you have to go with it. I'm not saying there's like zero doubt, but I know that that's what comes in, right? And so how I experience it still sometimes, like if I'm sharing with the client or even just having conversation and I tell them, oh, I'm feeling this, this, and this. And they're like, no, I'm not feeling that. That's not true at all. And I'm like, all right. Like part of it is also we have to be unattached. Like they're not going to be able to necessarily know it, right? But like we know. So if you want to reject what I see or feel, like, all right, I'm not attached.
Yeah. Well, they might not even know. They may not even know they feel that. I mean,
they definitely don't.
Yeah, like maybe you just know before them. I mean, I think for me too, there were many years, especially my younger years, where I would see something physically happening in front of me and I would kind of feel or kind of know something sort of like that, like seemed like it was happening in the background almost. And the two wouldn't match. And so it was very confusing to me because I'm like, it looks like one thing, but it feels like another. And I'm not really understanding what's going on because I'm pretty sure that what I'm seeing in the background is the real thing, but what's being shown to me physically and what the situation and the person is doing is totally different. So, there were a lot of ways where I started to kind of like find validation or trust what I was feeling. And it wasn't for many years that I realized that maybe I'm seeing things differently than other people, or maybe I'm picking up things that other people aren't getting. I'm getting a lot of information, and some of the information I'm getting isn't always being shown physically. I'm getting some of like kind of like the background energetic information. And so that's sort of maybe where the thing is coming from. But then what's happening physically is sort of what is the emotional expression for the human experience, we'll say. Yeah. So, that I found to be very confusing. And I just found that quote. Sorry, I just had to fact check myself for everybody. Amazing. It says, the one I was referring to by Leonard Cohen says, there is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. So pretty much similar to the thing you're saying, but I think I was saying the wrong person said it. So
all good. But but it is that, it's so,
that.
So true.
Well, there's also a beautiful vulnerability about it, because as soon as you show where your crack is, it makes other people feel safe or more comfortable to connect with you on that deeper level that we're all seeking. At some level, we all want that deeper, authentic connection. And one of the ways that we do that is by showing people where our cracks are and who we are. And, with you having the ability to really see people and kind of give them that permission and that softness and that vulnerability to be like, it's okay. I think that's a really beautiful gift, a way to sort of disarm people so that you can really do some of the heavy lifting with them.
Not too long ago, I was doing one of these quizzes, these quizzes that come on your Facebook, and it says like, what's your special skill? And it told me that I was a connection queen. And I think it was telling me more that from a perspective of, I like to bring people together. Yeah. I like to bring, and I love it. Like even in us doing this, it's like when we connect, it's like it amplifies the energy. Our message is more than double. It amplifies everything. But the ulterior or the other kind of perspective around connection, and a lot of my work is based on that connection, clarity, compassion. Connection, it's like we need to find connection with ourselves and then to others. And in how I like to introduce myself to clients or when I work with them, it's like you need to find that connection. You need to find the resonance, right? I show you my road, and maybe you'll feel safe to show me yours. I tell you that this is how it went down for me. It's a possibility for you to explore. Would you like to try? So I really love the concept, the fundamental philosophy that we are all seeking connection. Yeah. Even when you just come into session, it's like, I'm not healing you. I'm just being a healing presence. You're doing the work yourself, but it's about connecting, like synchronicity, all of us coming together, working together, whether you have one session together or pass the path of someone for 2 seconds, it's like everything is in divine. And there's this huge master plan of, total intricacies that we can't even fathom and imagine. And it's all about connecting. Why am I meeting this, barista at the coffee shop? Why am I meeting this colleague in school? Like we hadn't spoken probably in a long time. Until we did, last week or whatever it was, like in 2 years. I literally also recently connected with another colleague from school. And, like you can never know where the paths are going to cross and where connections are going to be made, and just really trust in the divine timing, trust in yourself, trust in, the people you work with, the podcast that you're listening to, and that is for a reason. Yeah. So I think connection is a super important philosophy and concept that we should come back to. And most importantly, it's that connection to self, but big self with the capital S, that consciousness that is within all of us that travels, from lifetime to lifetime. Like that's the biggest connection. It's like coming back to yourself, that home, that authentic expression. You need to know yourself before you can even express yourself.
Yeah, very beautiful. I'd love for you to tell everybody where they can find you if they'd like to work with you, what your Instagram handle is, what your website is.
Thank you. Yes, you can find me on Instagram at Kathy.sit. So that's CATHY.SIT. And my website is the same name, kathysit.com. So I definitely work in person. I am in Sydney in Australia. However, as we know, energy has no time and space and is definitely not bound by it. So I do work online over Zoom. I love to have a little discovery call, just, connect so we feel each other's energy. And then usually I work with a one-off kind of session and then kind of go into more of packages and programs. And simply because I think our healing is a journey. There's no one hit wonder. There's no one session is going to fix it all. It definitely shifts a lot. So I do the one-offs as initial session just to make sure that we like to work together. And then after that, I prefer a little bit more of a journey together and go deep. Like if we're going to do it, go deep. So I do have a couple of programs. But basically you can find me on Instagram or connect with me on the website. And then we can have more discussion and really have a customized thing that's right for you in your journey.
And I'll link those in the show notes for everybody. And then I just have two final questions for you. What keeps you growing? What inspires you and what keeps you growing?
What inspires me? I find inspiration in the everyday. I like to say that the modern mystery school these days is the modern day. It's like there's a sacredness in the everyday, and we just need to open our eyes and actually see. So I do find inspiration in the most mundane, like making my lunch and just being in honor and awe of how food makes it into my fridge because we forget sometimes. I find inspiration in the people and the connections that I make and in this cross pollination and, support of everyone. What keeps me growing? I think the continuous leaning in of exploring. I think that my own personal theme has been one of curiosity. Like you started off by introducing me as an explorer of life. And it really is like we're blessed to have this human experience. We're human becomings. And we need to explore. We need to explore the world. Yeah. But we need to explore ourselves and allow ourselves the opportunity to do that. And whether that's in traveling and going to the next spiritual group, in trying something completely new that you would have never, in dating someone that you would have never said yes to, in trying out new foods, like all of it is an experience. If you also give it that time and awareness of, and what did that experience teach me? So I think there's so many opportunities to grow every day in your everyday life. It doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be, I need to go on a 10-day soul searching retreat. Some people do. And we should, all have that retreat. But it's like, find the extraordinary in the ordinary day, because actually we're in it. We're in the ordinary world and the non-ordinary world all the time. So we just actually need to open our eyes and see it. So I do find, maybe it's cliche, but I do find inspiration and growth every day. And it's not all, smiles and giggles, all the time. There's deep moments.
Yeah. Usually it's not.
I had one of those last night. I was deep in it, and it's like, okay. And that too shall pass. So it's not being attached to either of those. It's equanimity, embrace the beauties and the joy and that elation and the high vibrations, but be accepting of the stuff's going to get real. You're going to be crying. You're going to be on the floor. And so, just in the ordinary, like just open our eyes and learn from everything. That's what I'd like to.
How beautiful. I mean, the ordinary is so extraordinary. The fact that we're sitting here in our homes on a computer connecting on a podcast, it's going to be on the internet, that we're here. Like the whole thing is so extraordinary, It's like, wow, we're so lucky and blessed. So thank you, Kat. It's been a real pleasure to be with you and sit with you in this space today. Thank you for sharing so much of yourself and for being here with me.
Thank you for having me. It's so much gratitude to a sister, to a fellow healer, and just an invitation to everyone to lean in, to be curious, to explore yourself, because that's the only thing that we can do is just figure it out for ourselves. Thank you so much.